Even the staff of Bollywood Silver Screen Printing say that this movie is based on the true story of Chuck Nolan's life. He got stranded on one side of the world and stayed there for 4 long years. Let's see how he got trapped in that place, how he survived for 4 years, and finally, how he managed to escape from there. This is the story of Chuck, who worked for a courier company, FedEx. He is extremely serious about his job and wants every courier, every package to be delivered on time. That's why he travels to different countries where FedEx has branches to motivate employees and teach them the value of time. At the same time, Chuck loves a girl named Kelly. Kelly also loves him deeply. They have been in a relationship for a long time and want to get married. But Chuck is always busy with work, constantly traveling abroad, and because of that, they haven't been able to get married yet. Now Christmas is approaching, but Chuck has to go to Malaysia because there's some very urgent work for FedEx there. However, he promises her, I'll be back here by New Year's no matter what. Kelly asks, but what about Christmas? Chuck explains it to her, and Kelly finally agrees. Before leaving, Chuck gives her a Christmas gift, a watch, and inside that watch is Kelly's photo. Chuck departs for Malaysia. While their plane was flying over the Pacific Ocean, a terrible storm hit and the plane crashed in the ocean. Since it was a FedEx private aircraft, there were only 4 people on board. The rest were just parcels. The plane went down in the Pacific Ocean, and after the crash, only one person survived, Chuck. Chuck was stranded in the middle of the ocean and the sea waves carried him away. When he woke up the next morning, he found himself on a deserted island. He looked around, but there was no one as far as the eye could see. Only coconut trees and mountains. He shouted loudly for help, but there was no response. Then he wrote the word help in big letters on the sand, hoping that someone flying above might see it and realize that someone here needed help. He also arranged large pieces of wood to spell out help, believing that rescue teams would surely come searching for him. And when they did, they'd know from the sign that Chuck was alive and needed to be rescued. Some FedEx packages also washed up on the shore, but none of them contained food. Meanwhile, Chuck often heard strange sounds. He thought maybe someone else was there, but when he looked around, there was no one. Just then, a coconut fell in front of him. That's when he realized the sound was from falling coconuts. Now Chuck needed water, but seawater wasn't drinkable, so his only option was coconut water. He gathered many coconuts, but breaking them open was not easy. Chuck had to work very hard, but finally he managed to pierce the shell and learned how to drink the water inside. Now Chuck had something to drink, coconut water. It had been 2 or 3 days since he came to the island. He had no shoes, and when he walked into the water, the rocks beneath cut his feet and blood started coming out. Then Chuck tore a piece of his pants and bandaged his foot.
He wraps a piece of his pants around his injured foot because above him there was a very tall mountain peak visible, towering high into the sky. He decides to climb to the top so that he can look around and figure out where he actually is. When he finally reaches the top, he spots something floating in the sea. He quickly climbs down and runs toward it. When he gets there, he realizes that it's the dead body of one of the plane's pilots. Seeing this, Chuck feels deeply heartbroken. He buries the pilot's body with respect, but before doing that, he takes the pilot's shoes and a flashlight that was with him, because these two things are what Chuck needs the most right now. By now, Chuck has been on this island for a long time, completely alone. Slowly, he begins to learn the ways to survive. He figures out how to collect dew water from leaves during the night and store it inside coconuts. At the same time, he tries to catch fish to satisfy his hunger. He sharpens a piece of wood and tries to use it for fishing, an ancient tribal method, and Chuck follows that method to catch fish, but at first, he doesn't succeed. On this island, his only food sources are crabs, coconut water, and dew collected from leaves. These three things are his only means of survival. One night, as he looks toward the ocean, he sees something out there. He becomes extremely excited and starts shouting for help, but his voice cannot possibly reach that far. He tries to signal with the flashlight, but from that distance, the light is impossible to see. The next morning, he makes a decision. He will take a piece of the airplane wreckage, a raft-like part, and try to sail away from the island because by now he's sure that no one is here and no one is ever coming. But as he tries to go toward the sea, massive waves rise up in front of him and stop him from moving forward, throwing him back to the shore again. During the struggle, his foot gets injured and blood starts to flow. Exhausted and in pain, he crawls back to the beach. That night, a heavy rainstorm hits. Chuck takes shelter in a cave and turns on his flashlight. But while he's sleeping, the flashlight goes out. When he wakes up, he sees that the batteries are dead, and now he has nothing to create light. Besides, he doesn't even know how to make fire. So he goes to the FedEx packages that had washed ashore from the sea. He opens them one by one, finding many things inside, but only a few are useful. In one box, he finds a pair of shoes. In another, a skate blade, metal plate. He takes them out, and now he has a sharp tool that he can use to crack open coconuts or cut other things easily. He sharpens a piece of wood and turns it into a spear, and this time he tries fishing again. Finally, he succeeds. Even though he had failed many times before, this time he manages to catch fish properly. But now Chuck faces his biggest problem. He cannot make fire. Eating raw food becomes very painful for him. He tries repeatedly to make a fire, even cutting his hands in the process, but the fire just won't start. Then suddenly, an idea strikes him. He thinks, if rubbing two sticks this way doesn't work, maybe I should change the direction. He changes the angle of the sticks and rubs them again. And after a long, exhausting struggle, finally, a flame ignites.
And now, Chuck becomes truly happy. Because for the first time since coming to this island, he feels a moment of real joy. Among the scattered things lying around, there's also a volleyball, and it has blood stains on it. Using that blood, Chuck draws eyes, a nose, and a mouth on the ball's surface, and then starts talking to it. The ball has the word Wilson written on it, so he names it Wilson. Now, on this lonely island, Chuck finally has a friend, the volleyball, Wilson. But there's one thing that causes him immense pain: his toothache. This pain had started long before, but he always avoided going to the dentist out of fear. Now, with no other choice, he must pull out his own tooth. After a long struggle, he finally removes it, and the pain is so unbearable that he faints immediately. Time slowly passes. Chuck has now spent 4 years on this island. In these 4 years, he has completely changed. The man who was once heavy and strong has now become lean and weak. His beard has grown long and his hair has become wild and unkempt. He has mastered the ways of survival. When he looks at the ocean from afar, he notices fish getting trapped near the waves, and he skillfully kills them with his spear. After 4 years of constant effort, he has become completely adapted to this life. Now, Chuck is one with the island, its environment, its silence, and its struggle. His friendship with Wilson has also grown deeper than ever before. He tells Wilson everything, spends all day talking to him, as if Wilson were a real person. One morning, while Chuck is eating fish, he suddenly hears a strange sound. He rushes outside and finds a steel sheet washed up on the shore. Looking at it, an idea strikes him. Maybe I can use this to get off the island. You see, the biggest obstacle to escaping the island had always been the massive ocean waves. Every time he tried to leave, the waves would throw him back to shore. That's why, even after 4 years, he still hadn't managed to escape. Now he begins cutting down tall coconut trees, dragging them to the beach, and building a large raft. But constructing it is extremely difficult. It takes great effort and time. He decides that he'll leave only when the wind changes direction. The steel sheet he found, he plans to use it as a sail to help the raft catch the wind and move forward, just like the ancient sailboats people used to travel the seas long ago. Finally, the time comes. The wind changes. Chuck gets on the raft with his friend Wilson and begins his journey. Now he faces giant waves, but he bravely fights through them. Chuck feels happy again, but ahead of him lies only the endless ocean. He doesn't know when he'll reach land or if any ship will ever find him. Yet after 4 long years, a flicker of hope rises in his heart. Maybe this time I'll finally go home. But it's not that easy. He must face storms, rain, and violent waves. For food, he catches fish, and for water, he collects rainwater. He keeps several coconuts aside so that whenever it rains, the water fills them, and he stores that water for later drinking. But amid all this, a tragic event occurs, something that shatters Chuck completely. His only friend, Wilson, the volleyball, falls into the sea. When he realizes it, Wilson has already drifted far away. Still, he jumps into the ocean, trying desperately to bring him back. But he fails. When he returns to the raft, Chuck breaks down in tears. Because Wilson was not just a volleyball, he was Chuck's only friend. The one he had talked to every day for the past 4 years. The one who had kept him from going insane in isolation. Wilson was more than an object. He was a part of Chuck's soul. Maybe to you it sounds strange, deeply heartbroken. But that wasn't just a ball to him. For the past 4 years he had been talking to it. It had become his only form of existence, his companion. That's why he was so emotionally connected to it. The loss of Wilson hurt Chuck deeply. After that, he continues his journey. Exhausted and broken after days of traveling, a cargo ship passes by. The people on board see him and rescue him. Chuck finally returns home. But when he gets back, he realizes that everything has changed. His family and friends had long assumed he was dead. They even held a funeral for him. His girlfriend Kelly, who loved him deeply and whom he also loved deeply, is now married and has a daughter. Chuck visits Kelly. She's overjoyed to see him and hugs him tightly. But she now has her own family, so she cannot go with him. They both agree that their paths are now different. Kelly had once given Chuck a watch before he left, and he returns it to her because it was a family heirloom. He says a family treasure should stay within the family, but he keeps her photograph with him. Before leaving, Kelly says, "You promised you'd come back." Chuck replies, "I'm sorry, Kelly. I was late." Kelly kisses him before parting, because even now she still loves him, but she cannot leave her family. Chuck also doesn't want her to abandon her life for him. Kelly also gives back Chuck's car, which carried many of their memories. Chuck sits in it and drives away. Kelly stands there watching him go, tears in her eyes, feeling like she's losing something precious. She runs after his car, calling his name. Chuck stops, gets out, hugs her tightly, and says, "I knew you were alive. I knew you'd come back. Everyone told me to stop thinking about you, but I still love you. You were my first love." Chuck replies, "I love you too, Kelly." They kiss, both crying, but they know they can't be together. Chuck tells her go home and drops her back at her house. Later, she's shown sitting with her friends, still deeply sad. He reflects that he might have died on that island or even ended his life, but he didn't, because he wanted to return to Kelly. That desire kept him alive. He says, "Even when I thought of ending it all, I couldn't do it. I kept breathing only for her." He became ill, struggled, but his love for Kelly gave him the will to survive. Now that he's back, he says, "I've let Kelly go." It's very emotional. Though the movie doesn't show too much of their love story, it clearly shows how deep their bond was, that they truly couldn't live without each other. But time and circumstances forced Kelly to move on with her life, and she married someone else. Chuck, however, is left alone. In the end, we see Chuck still holding one unopened package, the only one he kept safe from the island. It has wings drawn on it, an angel symbol. It's the last package that survived the crash. Chuck decides to deliver it personally because he's a responsible man. That sense of duty was one of the reasons he stayed alive. When he goes to deliver it, no one is home, so he leaves the package at the door with a note. "This package saved my life. Thank you, Chuck Noland." After leaving it, he stands at a crossroads, confused about which way to go next. A woman driving a truck stops and asks him if he's lost. Chuck says, "Actually, I was just deciding which way to go." She smiles and tells him where each road leads and then drives away. Chuck notices that her truck has the same wing logo as the package. She's the woman whose package he just delivered. He watches her truck disappear down the road, smiles, and looks in that direction, his eyes filled with hope. The movie ends there, with Chuck standing at the crossroads, smiling, ready to begin a new journey. The film Castaway was released on December 22, 2000. Its budget was $90 million, and it grossed $429 million worldwide. The main actors were Tom Hanks as Chuck Noland and Helen Hunt as Kelly. I hope you liked this story. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so you never miss our next video.